Hi, and welcome to the Taco Podcast. I'm Crystal. This is my lovely husband, Will, and you are our audience. And I hope all of you are having an amazing day.
Was that finger guns?
That was finger gun. I'm bringing it back.
Finger guns. All right. Well, hey, welcome to another episode of the Taco Podcast, everyone. As you can see, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host over here today for this week's episode. But this week, the topic is Crystal's going to talk about her new job. She just completed training in a completely different, field of employment.
Totally signed off now. I'm real. I got my final signature on my qualification card. I'm real.
Oh, that's great. Can you tell people what you do for a living?
I am now an industrial hygiene technician, which means I am specializing in ensuring the safety and health of workers in a variety of conditions. In this particular case, specifically, well, not specifically, frequently, construction workers, ensuring their safety from construction activities, heat stress, and chemical exposure.
That's cool. So, when you look at the what you previously did in pathology and in the medical laboratories sciences, would you say that there is any crossover as in skill set from those that help you and make you more qualified in this job?
I wouldn't say more qualified, but some things that helped with the transition are it's very procedure driven, which medical laboratory and anatomical laboratory both are very procedure driven. So that's definitely helped. And an analyzer is an analyzer is an analyzer, regardless if it's a pathology, eye scanning slides, if it's an iris in the medical laboratory, or if it's a handheld Jerome out in the field looking for mercury vapors.
Mercury? Well, we should share the Mercury story with the folks someday. When I first met her, and I was helping her move out of her mom's home. She had a giant vial, like I'm not vial, but a bottle of mercury with no stopper on it at all.
It has stopper, but I lost it.
Oh, okay, but the mercury vapors were just everywhere. You should have seen me try to get rid of that. And every one I called, the city, the state, everybody's like, "Oh no, we are not going to handle that." But I finally found one brave engineer who basically sealed the bottle, then put it inside of a coffee can so it was suspended, so it wasn't actually in the. He designed this entire thing and then taped it shut and finally got rid of the mercury. You can't just take mercury and down to your local hazardous waste recycling center and recycle
They
it.
don't have them where you guys are?
If all places would have something like that, it'd be here, but we don't. So now there's a lot of people out there that have, because of the economy, COVID shutdowns, jobs changed and stuff like that. Is there any advice that you'd give to somebody who may be considering, doing a field change from one field of employment to another?
Actually, there is. The biggest piece of advice that I could give somebody who's looking to switch fields from one field to another is you know more than you think you do. When you sit down to do your resume and you're thinking about what do I do in the course of my day, we have a tendency to block things together in chunks. You're like, oh, in my case, I process specimens. But process specimens is being a liaison from the force between the floor staff and the technical staff, being a reference for the providers, knowing which tubes work where, having a bank of reference laboratories I can talk to get stuff done, knowing which laboratory.
Would everybody know that, or was that something specific to yours?
It depends on the specimen processing,
okay,
but for the field of mine,
sorry,
knowing how to prep specimens to get them sent out, knowing turnaround times, shipping things, shipping requirements, both national and international, for different countries. So processing specimens isn't, and everybody does that. You tend to block your all of the components of your job into one thing, and we don't think about the fact that we have many different skills. So in this particular case, procedure, follow the procedure. That's 100% what your job does. How to, or what my job did, how to escalate. Okay, this procedure says X, but this specimen is going to this laboratory and their procedure says Y. Okay, how do I reconcile this? Can I reconcile this? If not, okay, now I'll speak to the pathologist.
So
That's something
again,
most people
your
do.
tip on is to what?
My tip is that you know more than you think you do. So
Okay.
take that block where you've kind of blocked your job into I do X, and then try to separate out its individual components. And
Very
you will
good point.
find
Very good point.
that those, yes, thank you. You will find that those individual components probably transfer quite well to other industries. Think about the industry that you want to go into, and then take what you currently do, separate it into its individual components, and see which of those transfer well. I think you'll find many of them probably do.
So an example that and how I helped a friend of mine who was he wanted to move out of law enforcement. Now, he didn't have a full-time position. He was part-time, and he did a lot of call up, which is a special event, law enforcement, traffic patrol and control. He got called for a lot of that stuff. A lot of the jobs that not a lot of the other guys they really didn't want to do. So, you can call it whatever you want, but he wanted to move away from this since there wasn't going to be any full-time openings coming up with our sheriff's department anytime soon. And he was interested, and he was up for relocation. He was up, he doesn't have any kids, so he was up for, relocation. He does, doesn't have, his feet set in, stone or concrete here, so he could move, but he would wanting to know how he could possibly get into, maybe security on this higher end security details, or does he need more training? Because he already had everything he needed to become a law enforcement officer. So we sat down and we actually got out a pen and paper and we wrote down every single thing that he does in the day-to-day routine. And that's how we broke it down, is these are all the things that you do, and how do these things transfer over to this? And we're then able to help him, give some pointers to him so he could craft his resume to the position that was more, and he could talk about the skill sets that he had that you would think, well, okay, in a day-to-day, operation as an officer, he did this, but how does that transfer to, security? We're hiring security detail. He's now working for Microsoft, of all places, and he enjoys his job. He's, but he's still looking at doing, call up our sheriff's department or whatever they need, and over there where Microsoft is located at. But so tell us more about your job. Have you been getting along with the your fellow employees?
Oh, I'm very lucky in that. Well, I don't know if I'm very lucky. I think everybody that was selected was good. But I'm thankful for the fact that everybody that I've been in my subgroup, so there's a large hired group of people for this position, and then we were divided into smaller groups where we rotated through our training. So that everybody in my group I get along very well with. We all have a similar sense of humor. And we even occasionally meet up outside of work and get together. We all get along very well, and I really appreciate that.
So what we'd say is was the hardest part. Now we've tackled the how some of your skill sets, from your old, form of employment transferred over. What would you say was the hardest part of making this actual leap? Besides, I should say, besides making the leap, into the dark, into a field that you had nothing, no knowledge of. What was the next hardest thing?
I would say that honestly, the hardest part is also, well, okay, so there's two. One of them is, I expect when I worked at the hospital, I was used to being one of the people I was amazing at my job.
You're amazing at
I,
everything.
I not to brag, but I was very
I
good
would.
at what I did. And I would have people throughout the hospital, and even people at other hospitals occasionally would contact me for help. And I was used to being the go-to person. Um, and it's a little bit of an ego hit when you're not. I'm not gonna lie. Um, uh, so happening to, I don't want to say fallback. Happening to remind myself that I don't know these things yet, and I'm not expected to know these things yet, is a bit of a struggle for me, because I'm used to being very competent at what I do. So having to ask questions um, gives me a little niggling thing of worry. I'm like, oh God, I'm asking questions again. And I have to remind myself, it's okay to be asking questions. You are still new at this. No one is expecting you to be perfect just yet. So that is where I have to recalibrate frequently, is that I'm holding myself to a standard of competence that is unrealistic where I'm at.
Okay. So you've changed, we've covered what your skill set and everything else. Is there anything that, with this job that you'd say that you were unprepared for? You didn't expect that that was going to be part of your job,
Honestly,
or you need, to really hit the books on.
I think I was unprepared for the pace of the job. Hospital work is, you're on all the time. Prep time happens in between patients. And it's just kind of the nature. Well, I'm going to scale that back, and I'm going to say it's the nature of hospital work because people are depending on you. But also, and maybe I might get some pushback for saying this, but it has been my experience that hospital tend to deliberately understaff their laboratories, sometimes their entire hospital. The hospital system that I worked at is finally being held legally accountable for deliberately understaffing certain hospitals. So hopefully that gets taken care of. And now that might come across a little bit like I have a grudge.
I do.
Maybe I do.
I do.
Not
didn't work
about the
there. I have a
laboratory
grudge.
itself. The laboratory was great. I love my coworkers, my bosses, but the hospital systems have a habit of, and oddly enough, it's the hospitals you wouldn't expect. They understaff their laboratories. Laboratories are oftentimes not considered money makers because labs don't make money. And lots of times, people who are money focused forget the fact that laboratories are a service. Services cost money. The hospital itself can't function without a laboratory. Your laboratory service determines your trauma team rating, whether or not you can have a critical care, a cardiac unit. All of those things are dependent on your laboratory. If your hospital makes money, your laboratory makes money. But a lot of people don't see it that way.
Mhm.
Part of why they understaff their laboratories. So going from a place that is critically understaffed, and you have to move all the time and there's very little downtime, to a place where they are very much, okay, stop, we're going to evaluate the work that we're going to do. And they're very step by step, and they're making sure that everything goes at a slow enough pace to make sure that everything is covered. That was a huge adjustment for me. And it's one that even 6 months later, I'm still, gosh, I feel like I should be doing something right now. We're evaluating the work that we're going to be going out and doing. We're making sure that everybody has the appropriate PPE to be safe while they're doing it. I am doing what needs to be done. Just because I'm not doing it quickly, and I actually have the staff and the coworkers and the time to do what I need to do a very thorough job. And with a lot of moving parts, it always is going to take longer because not only are we going out, but we've got other groups, safety groups going out, and the employee. It's always there. That's a lot of words for the pace has been a shift. So all those words for the pace to be is the shift.
If you knew somebody who was working in, not necessarily a dead end job, maybe they just want to take up, and go into something, a little more
Sometimes you gotta
exciting.
do something new. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Get new skills, meet new people.
What would be one quick tip that you would give somebody, if they were thinking about wanting to change just completely to a different field?
You said quick tip. You know what that does to my brain.
I think I see smoke.
I'm all like, oh, I don't know, quick tip. If you want to go into a completely new field, see if you can job share or not job share. See if you can job shadow. Some places let you, some places don't. Before you go into a completely new field, see if there's someone you know, a friend of a friend or a relative of somebody who works in that field or ancillary to that field, and whether or not you can get even a couple of hours to actually see that job in motion. Lots of times what we see on the outside is not the nuts and bolts of that job. And I myself have been completely surprised. Like, oh, I think I know what this job is all about. And then I get into that job and I was like, oh, I did not know what this job is all about. There's some shit happening here that I was not made aware of.
Okay. So I guess we can wrap this up then. Now you gave everybody an update.
And the finger guns.
And the finger guns. The finger guns are
We're bringing
important.
back
That's the selling point right there for this entire video.
the snap.
So we should expect with the finger guns, we should expect what, 8,000-9,000 views of this?
Oh yeah, if not more.
Yeah.
Should definitely just have
Finger
them
guns.
rolling in.
I mean, well, we should, end it with some cowbell, just to, add finger guns and cowbell.
But we don't have a cowbell. Do we have
We
a
do.
triangle?
We have a cowbell.
We have a cowbell?
Yeah, it's up there on the shelf.
We'll go get your cowbell.
I did it with the equalizer on the table. Well, that's why I buy all this technology,
Mhm.
is to try to make myself, more professional looking, but yet still having that look of somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
So you're saying every time you ask me to do an image manipulation for you?
No, I don't have any idea how to do that. I'm talking about this video and editing this. I spent all this money and all this technology, but yet look at where we're sitting in. I'm sitting in a broken chair. You're sitting in a what? A yard sale find?
Hey, this was a damn good yard sale find.
But when it comes to the actual fixtures though that are on camera, a lot of people are like, it's very cluttered, it's very cheap looking. Frankly, I never actually planned it that way. It's just comfortable for me because these are all the things that are in the studio that I like.
As long as it's comfortable for you. then
Yeah, I
who
mean,
cares?
I guess it kind of speaks to my eclectic, nature. So, all right. So you want to do the intro?
That's not even a clapper.
I didn't make the thing.
Isn't he cute?
One cowbell.
Aren't you gonna ding it? That was sad.
Okay. You want more enthusiasm?
Oh my God, give me the dinger. I know it. That's not really made for doing that. I think I cut my
No.
finger.
Well,
All right, never mind.
I mean, it was only
You all-
99 cents.
You all have a great day.